The Oscar season has officially begun when we gather the experts here, as we do at Gold Derby. We have more than 45 of the top experts predicting Oscars, Emmys, Grammys. And with us today, we have Matt Atchity, the editor-in-chief of Rotten Tomatoes,
Thank you.
who's been a longtime Derbyite. And we have Nicole Sperling from Entertainment Weekly. And en route from the airport is Keith Simanton, the senior film editor of IMDb. He'll be barging into the panel whenever he gets here. We're going to start with Best Picture. I think most of us would agree that this is a year very similar to The Artist, to 12 Years a Slave, to American Beauty, when we have an early frontrunner out there that just kind of claims the lead and runs the distance. We think it's La La Land. Only one of the current 28 experts making predictions at Gold Derby says otherwise, and it's Ann Thompson who says Manchester by the Sea. Let's start with you, Matt. Is she crazy, or are we right with La La?
I think that we are mostly right with Lala, but I'm not as solid on it as I used to be.
Why?
For a couple reasons. Coming out of Toronto, I was convinced that La La Land was absolutely going to take it. And, over and above the fact that it is a terrific film, it hits that sweet spot for the Academy, right? It celebrates creativity. It celebrates ambition and the artistic struggle. And like The Artist, I think that's going to appeal to a lot of the Academy voters, because really, when we predict the Oscars, it's as much about what is really good, but it's also second guessing how the Academy votes. And so La La Land absolutely appeals to a lot of Academy members. But post-election, it's hard not to think that maybe there's a statement that's going to get made. Maybe something else that's got a little bit more social currency might end up with the right, and this will sound really cynical, with the right campaign being in contention. Now, if I were to pick one, the one I've got as my number 2 right now is Moonlight. And I could see that. But
that's a small little indie. Why are you taking that chance to put that number 2?
Because I think that they've got a campaign that's going to start ramping up. And it got noticed at New York Film Critics Circle. Barry Jenkins has been getting a lot of notice. I think it may have some late-breaking momentum. At the end of the day, if I were putting money, I'm still saying my money is La La Land, but I think that Moonlight has a shot.
It's a number 3 position right now for Gold Derby.
Yeah, I don't think Anne. I mean, I love Anne. I respect Anne. I don't think she's right with Manchester. Although I think there is something that it is gonna get, but we'll get to that.
Nicole, Manchester just won Best Picture from one of the film. What was it? New York, right? Or no? National Board of Review.
Right.
And it is produced by Amazon, which is throwing gabillions of dollars into this race. Look, often you win the Oscar by spending the most money, as Argo did the year Warner Brothers spent a reputed $30 million to take probably the most competitive Best Picture race in modern history. So size it up for us, Nicole.
Well, I still think it's La La's to win.
Why? We haven't said why yet. Why?
Well, it's a fun, joyous movie that's also, there's so many reasons why that movie should not have worked. It is a musical that is like the musicals from the days of old, and it's also a grounded drama about love and relationships and your commitment to your dreams and what you're willing to do to get them. So it has a lot to say. It's also about artists and their struggle, and the Academy, with the actors as the biggest branch, loves to celebrate what they do and make what they do feel more important. I also think because in the aftermath of the election and a lot of the depression and angst that is being felt by probably many of the Academy members, that it is an escapist film and it makes you feel good, and I think there's something to that. Manchester is a fantastic movie. It is dark and it is sad. There are funny moments, but it is a tough go.
Right.
And I don't know how many people want to wallow in that. I do think Moonlight is a beautiful, beautiful film, and I think it does have a lot to say and is a political statement of sorts because of the life that it is depicting and how it's the voices we don't get to see, and it becomes so relatable in the end, and it's so specific and yet so universal, and I think it's a beautiful film that you should all see. But I don't know if it makes that big of a leap into the Best Picture race. I think it'll get a ton of nominations.
La La Land has the strongest rooting factor of any film this year, and that usually is what determines what the win is. I was at Toronto with Matt at the world premiere of La La Land at Toronto. You were there too, and we were at the Elgin, was it theater, or was it the Princesses of Wales? Whatever it was, the place exploded like it was a rock concert when. Like a religious experience. It was bone chilling to watch. That's the power of this movie. And you think, how could this do this? This little traditional romantic song and dance movie painted in lollipop colors. And twice, by the way, Emma and Ryan go up into the stars dancing. And you know what? I bought the whole thing. I was up there with them.
Yeah.
And you will too if you haven't seen it. It is magical. It is crafted by the wizards who gave us Whiplash. And give me some more.
Yeah, who saw Whiplash here in the okay, so you know how Whiplash at the end of Whiplash, it really gets you, right? This one does too. This one does too. This is one of those movies you come out of and you're like, "Oh, I can't wait for other people to see this. I can't wait to share this." I've seen it twice. Now, those of us that do what we do, it can be a struggle to see a movie once, right? We see movies for a living. And I'm not going to complain. Look, seeing movies for a living is awesome. But to make the time to see something twice means that something is real special. And I,
twice too.
right? So,
I intend to see it 400 more times. Somebody said to me in the theater in Toronto that she sat there and she says, I could watch this 400 times in a row, starting right now.
yeah, somebody I work with has seen it 3 times already. I know Alicia Malone, who has her indie movie show on Fandango, has seen it 4 or 5 times already. It's her Star Wars. This is a great movie. Now, I will say, I was so excited. I took my wife to the AFI screening, and we got out, and she's like, that movie's kind of all over the place.
Whoa!
My wife has no heart.
You know what? My husband, I took him to the AFI screening too, and he came out saying like, "It was good."
Ugh.
I was like, "What?" And then he
Right.
thought about it for the next 2 days and was like, "Okay, can't get it out of my head. It's
Yeah.
better than good."
Yeah,
Like,
it's
oh, you do have a heart. You're
it-
human.
it's a terrific film, and one of the things that I think, and I don't want to give anything away in this one. There's a sequence towards the end of the film that almost catches you off guard and really is as impactful as the end of Whiplash. And similar to Whiplash, yes, there's a lot of jazz in it, but this is a movie about ambition and the cost of it and what people are willing to sacrifice and go through. And it's also this wonderful love letter to Los Angeles. It's this wonderful, beautiful movie that takes place all over Los Angeles. Yes, we see Griffith Park, but we see aspects of Los Angeles that we haven't seen in movies in a while, like the Angel's Flight, and a lot of great moments that LA, it would be, I don't want to be as goofy and say, oh, LA is a character, but the opening sequence of this movie is this great one long take dance number on the flyover from the 110, or I'm sorry, the 105 to the 110.
150 SAG members singing and dancing.
Yeah, and it's
Winner.
yeah, it's terrific.
Yeah.
So much fun. And there's one of the things that's great about this movie, and this comes through in the best movies, is there's a joy in this movie that is infectious, and even something like Moonlight has that. There's a passion that's infectious. La La Land has this kind of infectious joy to it that it plays the audience like a violin, and you come out and you think, God, I haven't seen one like that in a long time. Like, that's the kind of movie that's why we do what we do. We are chasing the dragon of that feeling, I think.
Made by a 31-year-old filmmaker who wanted to make this film more than any other movie, so he just did Whiplash as a placeholder till he got to do this. His roommate is the songwriter. His college roommate, so this is kind of a team, and they're quite something. This movie will have the most nominations. Mostly the movie with the most nominations tends to win Best Picture, unless you're The Revenant last year and Spotlight pulls off a surprise. It's going to win costume. Maybe not costume. Silent.
Oh, it could win.
Costume.
Well, yeah, but this could costumes too.
The yellow dress alone.
That's right. The yellow dress is pretty amazing. The other movies in the race here are, in our fourth position at Gold Derby, we have Fences, then Silence, Loving, Arrival, Lion, Jackie, and Sully, according to us, will be the top 10 at the Oscars, if they go to 10. And they have not the last few years. I think it's been 8, right? Something like that. Let's switch over to the acting. When you win Best Picture at the Oscars, you tend to win an acting award. If you're Hilary Swank in Million Dollar Baby, Russell Crowe at Gladiator, etc., even in those subcategories like Javier Bardem winning for No Country for Old Men. The exception recently was Michael Keaton losing to Eddie Redmayne when Birdman won Best Picture. But in general, if we accept this concept that La La will win Best Picture, then this is Emma Stone's movie. Doesn't she have to win? Well, maybe, because she's really the whole film. I mean, Ryan is significant, but this is all, you're going to see and feel this film through Emma's eyes. But it's a song and dance. It's a two-dimensional, deliberately you know what I'm saying? There is gravitas to it, but the genre is not. You don't think of Singing in the Rain or these classic Hollywood musicals as having gravitas. Now, pitting against that is a trend we've seen at the Oscars, specifically very recently, more so than ever, although it's always existed, which is the famous person portraying another famous person. Helen Mirren portraying Queen Elizabeth, and Eddie Redmayne portraying Stephen Hawking. And that's Natalie Portman this year, one of the biggest movie stars in the world, in a performance that Jackie is my second favorite movie of the year. There's a lot of debate of whether it will really get on the Best Picture list or not. But boy, she nails Jackie Kennedy. You really believe it. And she's got that odd cadence of the voice in a film that's more of an art film than the film that you expect. It's not a paint-by-numbers biopic from Lifetime. This is disjointed in time and does so many dangerous things that it steals your breath away by the end of the movie. I'm really impressed by this film. So, given that, first of all, let's start with Matt. Do you accept that that's the race, those two?
Yeah, I do. I think that that's the race. And I think that Natalie's probably the one to beat. She does put in a terrific performance in a movie that has this alternate dreamlike quality, but also this sense of kind of bleak despair that I hadn't seen since something like The Road. And really, it does center on her performance. The movie makes a mistake or two here or there, but it's a really powerful movie, and she's amazing in it. And again, this is one of those transformative performances. You kind of forget that you're watching Natalie Portman.
And they want the transformative performances now. They're almost all, you have to pack on 30 pounds or take off 50 pounds or wear a wig or do the rest of it. You got to be Matthew McConaughey in, transformed in Dallas Buyers Club, or even Leo won last year. Finally, when he got ugly, rolled around in the mud and got beaten up by a bear, not looking at all glamorous or matinee starish. What do you think is going to happen here, Nicole?
Well, I would have said Natalie Portman all the way until I watched Emma again in La La Land. And the second time I saw the film, I thought her performance did have a lot of gravitas. And there's a couple audition scenes where you see the despair and you see the joy and you see the struggle that she's in that I think is really terrific. And I think it's her finest performance to date for sure. So I think we were just having this discussion earlier. You could make the argument that maybe the older crowd of the Academy will vote for Jackie and maybe the younger will turn to Emma. And if we know how the Academy is still broken down, that means there's more of an older demographic, so then you give it to Jackie. But then I would throw in a third possibility, and that would be Annette Bening. I know usually in the actress race, they like to give it to the ingenue too. They don't often go with the veteran actress as much. But Annette Bening has been nominated, 4 times?
Lost 4 times.
Lost 4 times. And 20th Century Women is perhaps, it's never going to make it into the Best Picture race, but her performance I really liked her performance in it. I thought she was terrific in it. And it's a complicated, messy role, and she gets to do lots of things, and I think she does it really well. That may resonate. I do believe it's between Emma and Jackie. See, Emma and Natalie, but you never know.
Natalie, of course, won 6 years ago for Black Swan, and you might think, well, that disqualifies her. She's not going to win. But there is a odd thing at the Oscars of the honeymoon period, where we see Sean Penn and Hilary Swank winning 5 years apart, Christoph Waltz winning 3 years apart. Sally Field said, when they like you, they really, really like you, as she held her second Oscar, right? Or was it the first? But anyway, the premise is true. Emma Stone was nominated for Birdman. She's passed the test of being embraced by them. She's certainly a big star in every way now, and ready for her coronation, the ingenue phenom that Natalie went through when she won for Black Swan, and that Nicole's talking about here. The overdue factor, though, is a fascinating one because we have 2 actresses way overdue. Right. We have Annette Bening, who's 4-time loser, who is, by the way, an Academy governor and head of the actors branch, and that hasn't helped Tom Hanks recently. But That
Oh, like he's hard up for Oscars.
I know, but still he's been snubbed the last 3 times we thought he would get in, and we'll talk about him in a minute. But we have Amy Adams in this race, who's lost 5 times. If the poor dear loses one more time, she's going to hold the record as the biggest loser of all actresses in the history of the Oscars, along with Deborah Kerr and Thelma Ritter of all.
So maybe she won't get nominated.
Arrival is it's a sci-fi role. We don't. She's in that. For us, she's in the 5th position behind Ruth Negga for Loving, a very subtle, understated role, but probably will be nominated, right?
Probably.
Do you think Ruth over Amy?
You know, it's tough because she's got 2 movies that are getting campaigns, and
Nocturnal Animals.
that could split her vote. Like, it's entirely likely it could split the amount of votes she gets, because somebody might say, well, I'm going to do it for this one, but not the other one. The other thing is, you know, I loved Arrival. Arrival's one of my favorite movies of the year, but it might be a little inscrutable for people. And so maybe they switch into, you know, there's that factor of, well, I like Amy Adams and I'll nominate her for Nocturnal Animals, but that may not have the momentum, and so she may get left out. It's almost a hazard to have 2 movies in contention at the same time, because you maybe get passed over, not intentionally, but you don't have a coming together, so to speak.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Isabel, who am I pronouncing right? Hubert? God forbid I mispronounce it in a film school like USC. She's a big factor too, right? In her 60s, she is the Meryl Streep of France. She is in a movie that people really love. Elle has been critically acclaimed, and they love that little foreign actress like the Amour woman, Emmanuel. What was her name? Riva. Thank you. They love that kind of actress in this race, and that's Isabel this year. Does she get in?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too. That's a hell of a performance.
Yeah, it's amazing in that.
And a win there would be well deserved.
It could happen.
For sure. I don't think it happens, but beating both Natalie and Emma.
Hey, if the diva vote splits, yeah. Remember, Emmanuel Riva came very close to winning that year. Remember, a lot of our experts at the last minute were breaking and going with her, and you could feel the momentum. I think there was a possibility that if that race lasted another 2 or 3 weeks, she could have pulled ahead. That's 6. So in the 7th position is Taraji P. Henson in Hidden Figures, who, by the way, has an amazing scene, her big outrage scene, which you normally need to win an Oscar. But I think she may be hurt by her cookie roll in Empire, because it's a little trashy, and if the Oscar voters are anything, they are snobs. What do you guys think?
I just don't think the movie is strong enough for her to get in. I think the movie is a great movie to see. I think people should see it. I wish it came out in August, so that it wasn't in this situation it is now, where it's being compared to the other movies in the race that are coming out right now. I think it would have fared better with some box office and nostalgia in its favor. I think her performance is great. I think all the performances are really strong in that. But to me, it just feels light. It doesn't feel important enough.
Yeah, I'd love to see Taraji P. Henson get a nomination, but
She was nominated for Benjamin Button, remember?
Yeah, and I'd love to see her. It's interesting, because I think that there is that aspect where the Academy can be snobbish about certain actors. Although, you got to figure that that's changing, because so many people are going to TV these days. I mean, that's where the creative possibilities are, right? Especially as movie production dries up, and you got to figure too, are the voting rules where you've got people who are the voting rules changing that at all? With some of there was all that talk last year about some of the older members who aren't so active still being allowed to vote, and so maybe that kind of dynamic may change a little bit. Maybe
She's rewarded for the fact that Empire is such a hit because of her.
Yeah.
Is that
maybe
her favor?
It could.
Everybody loves Cookie. Come on, she's great. Best Actor. Boy, this is. Don't believe Gold Derby's odds on Best Actor, because Casey Affleck is a mile and a half down the road ahead of everybody else. The vast majority, 19 of our experts are predicting Casey to win, but we have 9 who are predicting Denzel. I'm on the Casey wagon for now, but I'm so tempted to go for Denzel. This race is not over, is it?
No,
What do you?
no, I don't think it's over.
We have Ryan Gosling. I mean, he could be the Jean Dujardin of this year. Which remember he got in with the artist sweep, so we have to take that seriously.
No, Gosling won't get it. He may get a nomination. He's not going to win.
Okay,
Absolutely.
I don't think so either. But
No, a guy like that on top of the world, they're not going to give him that award. Come on. No way.
okay, all right.
Then we'd all have to
But he's
read.
nominated.
Ryan.
Those three will be nominated, right?
I think those three will be nominated.
And who? wins?
I think Affleck wins. I think he does. Because it's such a nuanced performance, and it's, it plays to his strengths. Like he plays befuddled, he plays small. He does that a lot, and I think certainly compared to, and I thought Live by Night was fine, but compared to, I think he's actually put in better performances recently than his brother has, and I think that this is, this performance is so powerful, and this is another movie that bring Kleenex. I mean, this is a really powerful, really moving film, harrowing. There's that scene. There's one scene towards the end between Michelle Williams and Casey Affleck, and on that scene alone, I could see Michelle Williams getting a nomination for Best Supporting Actress.
Absolutely.
But Casey Affleck plays true to that character, and it's just such a great performance, and it's so subtle and nuanced and communicates so much and says so, with so little dialogue. It's interesting to see somebody that you can get a sense of what this character's feeling so much with. He's so laconic. There's so little said, and at any given time, you kind of feel exactly what's going on with him, but not in a showy way. It's you empathize with him. It's a really great performance.
But, Nicole, let me set this up for you, because I want you to handle the Denzel aspect of this. If you look at the last recent years of Best Actor at the Oscars, they've been going for movie stars. McConaughey, Leo, Daniel Day-Lewis. And here comes Denzel at a time of Oscars so white. And not only this, he directed this movie. And this is really, really important, because what do actors want to do? They want to be the boss of that film. They want to be on the other side of the camera and on this side of the camera in their wildest dreams. And in some cases, they get to do it. The last person to direct himself to an Oscar, you have to go way back to Laurence Olivier with Hamlet in the 1940s. It doesn't happen often, obviously, here that they get nominated. Warren Beatty was nominated for Reds, but they don't often win. But that said, if Denzel wins again, he will join that pantheon of actors who have the most among male actors, and that's three, and that's Daniel Day-Lewis, and it's Walter Brennan of all things, and it's Jack Nicholson. But Denzel, if there's anybody who gets added to that pantheon, it could be Denzel, right? He won the Tony for this award.
He won the Tony. It's a tremendous performance in Fences, of this man whose life didn't turn out the way he wanted, and he wants to blame everybody else for it. But he's angry, and he's tortured, and he's just all these different things, and he's terrific. It's a verbose performance. It's the complete opposite of Casey Affleck. He cannot stop talking in the film. But that doesn't mean it's not terrific. To me, the film felt so theatrical in its nature that I think that's the strike against it when it comes to the Academy. I think he'll definitely get nominated, and I think he has a chance. But I would also throw Andrew Garfield into the mix for Silence.
Silence, not
Hacksaw?
I got better odds at Gold Derby for Hacksaw, but of course
I appreciated far better in Silence than Hacksaw. You two do not agree?
I haven't seen Silence yet. I haven't made it out to that.
Either have I.
But
well, then you can't say.
We're not on these privileged screening lists like EW.
I haven't gotten out to that one, but I was caught off guard by how much he moved me in Hacksaw.
Well, just wait.
Yeah, hey.
He was just getting warmed up.
Andrew has the Leo problem, which we at Gold Derby call slap the stud, which is if you're too young and pretty as a guy, whack, they aren't going to give you that Oscar. Paul Newman didn't win until he was in his 60s. Leo, look at what Clooney had to go through. He had to put on 40 pounds. And if you go against type and sacrifice your looks and you uglify yourself, they'll let you in. But if you're young and pretty as a male, if you're Johnny Depp and you're Brad Pitt looking for an acting, he's got an Oscar for producing 12 Years a Slave. But Andrew Garfield has the stud problem. In other words, I think
Ryan Gosling
nominated.
Yeah, so does Gosling.
And so does Gosling, come to think of it, which may hurt them winning.
Yeah, I think that's the case.
But the opposite is true for women. The young, beautiful women tend to win. But the Oscar voters who tend to be old
How that works.
guys say, you know what, kiddo? You got the money, the babes, you've got the fame. Here's one thing you can't have, the Oscar. Ha ha! Right?
yeah,
It's true. I agree with
How cruel Hollywood is here.
you know what?
Tom Hanks, let's talk.
Well, I was going to say there's a movie we haven't talked about yet, and I think partly because it hasn't been screened that much, and one that I think is caught me off guard, and I think is going to make a late breaking run is Patriots Day.
Yes, it could.
It caught me off guard too.
Right?
Really good.
Yeah, it was. I was like, oh my god, this is a Peter Berg movie.
know.
I mean, this is
Directed by someone else, it would have been like at the front runner.
right. And look, I love Peter Berg. I love Friday Night Lights. I'm a big fan of The Rundown because I love, crazy action movies. My 13-year-old loves Battleship. It's okay. But this movie is, it sneaks up on you. You think you know what it's going to be, right? Because especially Peter Berg also just gave us Deepwater Horizon, which is also really effective.
Really good, and no one's.
How he turned those two movies in this year, and Patriots Day, I think has a shot at going all the way to Best Picture. I think it
For
absolutely
nomination.
does. For a nomination, with the right campaign, it could maybe. It's one of those things that I think it hasn't been seen widely enough, and I think there's a lot of folks, doing what we do haven't. I mean, I sat in that screening and looked at Scott Mance, and we both had this reaction like, "Oh my God, what did we just see?" And it's a really strong movie.
He was talking about it after too. Like I saw him at Silence, and he
Yeah.
was still talking.
Yeah,
Scott is the Access Hollywood movie critic, also part of Gold Derby. No, it could. It's one of those surprises that could pop up because it's having this kind of deep emotional impact. Absolutely,
So, do you think it's more relevant since the election too?
maybe.
I think so. I think so too.
Let's talk about poor Tom Hanks, double Oscar winner, of course, Forrest Gump, and his other movie,
Phil,
Philadelphia. Thank you. I'm blank. This is an interesting case. Here's a guy he's currently a governor of the Academy. Again, he's been an officer. He's been vice chairman of the Academy, secretary of trade. But anyway, he's been an Academy leader for all. He's an award darling with the Academy, who has not been nominated every time we keep thinking he's going to get in. He wasn't nominated for Saving Mr. Banks. He wasn't nominated for Bridge of Spies. He wasn't even nominated for Captain Phillips when he had the big crying scene. And now he's in this unlikely hit called Sully, that has been a huge hit, and not only that, it's showing up on all the top 10 lists. It's probably going to be nominated for Best Picture. Does Hanks finally get back into this race with a nomination? Nicole, you're shaking your head. Why?
I don't think he did enough to transform himself. I think you're going to have the same argument you've made all along.
he grew a mustache.
That was hard work.
What do you think, man?
It's a crowded year. This is a crowded year. I think it's a crowded year in most of the races. I mean, it's easy to say, La La Land is going to be a runaway for Best Picture, but I don't think it's a gimme. I think that it's a very competitive year across almost all the races, and it's hard to say. The question is, if Tom Hanks gets in, who does he cut out?
Right.
Right? And I think the other problem too, and this sounds cliched, that movie was a long time ago. I mean, that's a movie that was what, August? That's an August release, I believe. It's a few months ago. And have we seen Tom Hanks play this role before? Sure. And I think that hurts him. I mean, he's great. I don't want to sound negative on Tom Hanks. Terrific actor. And we've seen him do great roles, and he always puts in good work. But I think it's going to take him doing something transformative, like Nicole said, to really get back on people's radar.
In the fourth position at Gold Derby is Joel Edgerton for Loving, who I don't have him in my predictions, and I'm getting a lot of blowback from Focus Features about it because I think the role is too subtle. But a lot of experts at Gold Derby disagree. 16 of our 28 have him down for a nomination. Are the 16 right, and I'm wrong? What?
I think you're right. And I don't know what I have right now.
But I remember I don't have him.
I think it's going to, I like that movie, but I think it's going to fall off all around. I feel like it was the early, because it came out of Cannes and did so well out of Cannes, it got a lot of love then. But I think that it's a small, quiet movie, and people think it didn't go deep enough, and you didn't know enough about the characters, and it wasn't emotive enough, or it just was It wasn't enough in all around, and I think maybe Ruth falls off, and I think maybe Joel
Oh,
falls.
Ruth gets in. Oh,
You
I agree with you about that. It's in trouble for Best Picture. I have it on my.
Yes,
I think
I think it's in
I
trouble.
realize,
for
I
Best-
absolutely agree with your point. It's in trouble, and I think what you're pointing to is Joel's problem. But if anybody gets in, it's Ruth. I mean, she is.
Anybody gets in, but I could see a scenario where she does.
It could.
Yeah,
No,
the challenge with that one is it's a little too subtle.
Yeah.
It's a little too subtle,
Think so.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, I love that. I think that's a great movie, but Edgerton plays Richard Loving as quiet and as undemonstrative as that man was. And there's a real stoicism there that, unlike Casey Affleck, where he finds the right balance to telegraph what he's thinking and what he's feeling, Richard Loving comes off a little bit like a blank slate. Like you kind of don't really, you don't get the sense of his any inner turmoil. If anything, you get the sense like he just wants to be left alone. And I think, which is the reality of it, but I don't think that gets you an Oscar.
Viggo Mortensen for Captain Fantastic. He's in our 7th position. So our problem is we have way too many people here. We have Casey Affleck, Denzel, Ryan Gosling, Joel Edgerton, Tom Hanks, Andrew Garfield. In both separate leading roles. He's in 6th place for Hacksaw, in 8th place for Silence, and then Viggo. There are only 5 slots here, boys.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would be bold and say maybe Viggo over Tom Hanks.
Okay.
Maybe. I think that's a more interesting role than.
but it's just gonna be all about viewing.
Yeah, I know.
Put it in their DVD because if they put in the player, because
Right.
that's gonna be one that's at the bottom of the pile.
Oh yeah,
More likely saw Sully.
you're right. Well, yeah, and I mean, this will sound really cynical. Here's why Sully has an advantage. It's 90 minutes. I mean, look, like I'll be honest, like I know that's cynical, but it's like, 90 minutes, I'm in and out, great. And listen, don't think that doesn't matter to voters, right? To actually sitting down and watching stuff. It's presented with that versus something that's 3 hours. I pick the 90-minute. That's what's going to happen. Absolutely. And I know that sounds cynical, but that's, filmmaking things like that matter, and runtime can be important.
Give us the Rotten Tomatoes formula for Oscar winner. I love this. Matt's done the numbers. The question is, can you take the critics' score at Rotten Tomatoes and predict anything from that about what will win Best Picture?
I keep coming at this every year, and I have yet.
Great setup.
I keep looking at it, and can I figure out things like box office, things like per screen average, things like the tomato meter score, the top critics score, the average that we run, and what tended to happen up until about 2 or 3 years ago is that for about a 10-year streak, the highest and lowest reviewed movies tended not to win Best Picture. But for the last 2 or 3 years in a row, the highest reviewed movie did win Best Picture of the nominees. But that's inconsistent. It's tough to tell. So I've looked a lot. Someday I'll figure out the right algorithm.
But do you think it's impossible to do because the demographics keep changing of the Academy? I mean, slowly, but this year it's been a bigger jump than the years prior.
Well, and the thing that it doesn't take into account is, the budgets for campaigns. I mean, look, the campaigns are as influential as anything else, right? When, if certain studio heads are going door to door, that makes a difference. The lobbying that happens. And I don't think that, there's there may not be a formal, arm twisting, so to speak. It's not like the days where MGM would tell their whole pool of people like, oh, vote for our Tom and Jerry cartoon, right? As an employee, you have to put your vote in for that. But I think that there is that kind of lobbying and kind of that schmoozing and that, you can see it. You can see the events that happen, who's out doing the lunches, who's out doing the dinners and the Q&A sessions. And as a lot of it is, it's a campaign just like any political campaign.
And that's how Spotlight won last year.
Yeah.
Lisa Tayback, the Oscar consultant in this case, had an event going every single night, sometimes 2 or 3 events. And she won the campaign on the ground the same way Eddie Redmayne won the campaign on the ground.
And Brie Larson.
and Brie Larson. And Emma may do it this year because she's everywhere. We see her every other night. Ryan hasn't. He's shooting something now, I think.
Blade Runner.
Yes. Okay. And so uh, he's going to be breaking into the here late. But the Oscars are all about the campaigns. You have to go back more than 40 years to find a movie nominated for Best Picture that did not have an Oscar campaign. And that was American Graffiti, the top-grossing movie of its year, that accidentally got in first to the Golden Globes and therefore got on the awards radar, and then therefore got into the Oscars, much to the surprise of the studio, going, "Oh my God, we never thought this was an awards movie," and it broke through. But when we start making predictions at Gold Derby, we begin in August. And you might think that's insane. It's before the festivals and the rest of it, but that's fun. It's as important for us to be wrong as it is to be right. In other words, we can look back with pride at Gold Derby to all of us saying, we knew 12 Years a Slave was going to win from August on. We knew The Artist was going to win, and we nailed it all the way through. But when we really do stupid, boneheaded things, it's fascinating to look back to the year when we all thought Unbroken was going to be the Best Picture in August, and we do that. But what
August, it was going to be the best. I mean, there was no way it could lose in August.
But where we start, you might say, how do you know? And we have an uncanny accuracy rate, especially with predictions. You can go back and look, and we have a time machine function at Gold Derby. You can click through all the Oscar predictions going back to August right now if you want and see, we predicted the AFI list. We predicted what the Golden Globe nominations are going to be. How did we know? Well, we know because what Matt is talking about, the campaigns. We know in August, finally, that Fox Searchlight is going to campaign Nate Parker, and I mean the whole Birth of a Nation thing, and then whoops, that fell apart, so they're going to throw money at Jackie, and we know that, and we know roughly how much money they're going to spend, and we know which consultants are behind the scenes, and often that is who determines Best Picture. We're talking about Lisa Tabak. She was Harvey's long-running Oscar guru, so she certainly knows what she's doing. And there are 3 or 4 others out there who are premier at this. We all know them and work with them on a constant basis. And if the studio does not campaign a movie or a performance or the rest of it, forget it. It has virtually no chance of getting in. Every now and then, it sneaks in. You could look at a Damien Bashir one year, for example. How did he get nominated? Well, he got nominated because he had the first screener out that year of all actors, and it came out in September. It was the strategy that Little Miss Sunshine had, and Juno. Just get it out there, get that DVD, and it worked. It's all about the campaign in many cases.
Right. At that point, you can put your 3-hour screener out there, right? Yeah, but at this point, like in December, boy, you better hope your movie's less than 2 hours. Not serious. I mean, I know I keep harping on that, but it's, a lot of it is opportunity. Is it on DVD where you make streaming links available? Are you having a lot of screenings? I think that's where silence is going to suffer.
Yes,
like silence is coming in really late in the game.
The last December release to win Best Picture was $1 Million Baby, that you have to go back more than a decade. It's a drawback. Let's talk about supporting actress. Viola Davis was lead at the Tony Awards in a role that had previously won in supporting, or was nominated in supporting. And there's all this controversy this year about Viola Davis, lead or supporting, where does she belong in Fences? Well, the reason she was lead at the Tony Awards was because her name was above the title, and that was the Tony's rules, so therefore she had to be there. But she did something very smart when this film entered the Oscar arena, which was that she agreed to go supporting, primarily because at this point I think we all knew that the Best Actress was a Natalie versus Emma race, and she's smart to get out of the way. But this is a fascinating case of where you have essentially a lead role, campaigning and supporting. They tend to win. And Viola's performance is so poignant and so impactful in the thing. She's way out front, and at 22 of the 28 experts at Gold Derby say she's going to win. What do you guys think?
Yes, she's going
Why?
to. Well, the performance is tremendous. She's lost twice before. She kind of wrecks you, right? When you watch the movie, she wrecks you. She's that good. And she just Michelle Williams is really the one it's up against.
I agree with what Matt said about the final scene of Michelle Williams in Manchester. It's really powerful.
But I don't think it's enough.
It's a really small role, and when you compare the two, there's nothing to compare.
It's not, and it doesn't compare to the momentum that Viola Davis has had in her career for the last few years.
Hey, Keith Simanton is in the house. IMDb.
Do you remember at the end of It's a Wonderful Life when Todd Carnes comes in and he goes,
You know, he's Harry Bailey, and he flies in at the last second and goes, "To my big brother George, the richest man in town." So that's me today. Keith has been kicking ass at Gold Derby for years. He is our #1 predictor the last 2 years in a row. And we're out for revenge this year. And, as I should turn on, although I do project pretty well, I was particularly proud of the Independent Spirit Awards. That's right, I was on that too. So what's the secret? I can't tell you, but so I'm sure we figured it all out. That well, give us your #1s in picture, actor, and actress. Actor and actress, boy. Well, I do think still that it's Casey Affleck for Manchester by the Sea. Why? For actor. Why? I've never seen anything like a number of the scenes where he is both reacting and unable to react, and to be able to pull that off, and to do that and listen to the other person at the same time. It's just in that iconic moment with him and Michelle Williams, which is just masterclass stuff as far as I'm concerned. Sorry, I'm breathing a little hard. And then actress, boy. You know, I'd love to see Emma Stone, which won't happen. Well, no. Most experts at Gold Derby say, well, no, I don't. Why not? Well, I think because it's going to get picture. But you normally win an acting award with picture. Who else would win in this? I don't think that's where we are anymore. I think we're in a world where we talk about this stuff so much, and there's so much information available. You're not going to have the Ben-Hur, Titanic, Return of the King sweeps anymore. I just don't think those are going to happen. That's actually been true recently. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting what you were talking about campaigning, is because I think a smart campaigner can, like we're talking about with Viola Davis, can focus on one race, can focus on one specific, can narrowly focus on one race and potentially lock one race in and throw your resources towards that, rather than kind of this carpet bombing trying to get no nominations for everything, right? And I think that's a smart move. As you mentioned, for Viola Davis, who has momentum. I started to say, I think she's going to win Golden Globe for that. I think she's going to go home with 2 Globes this year. She's going to get that, and she's going to get it for How to Get Away with Murder. And I think she's going to ride that momentum all the way to Oscar night.
I can't see her losing. It would be a surprise. The one big surprise to me, however, is that, and why I was kind of debating on what I was going to say, is that if you ask me, that she is the best actress of the year. It's not a supporting role. She's the last third of that film. It's not a supporting role. I guess it's smart for them to have run her where they're running her, but it's not a supporting role, in my opinion. In your esteemed opinion. And it is justifiably esteemed. The other categories are Naomi Harris from Moonlight. She's not going to win. Nicole Kidman for Lion. Watch Naomi suddenly run out crying. Oh, I've said that about a lot of stars. I once said it about Deborah Messing in Will and Grace at a party. I said, honey, you're just not going to win. I'm sorry. The role is just too super. And she ended up winning the next year. But,
Did you add the honey at the beginning of that?
No. Greta Gerwig for 20th Century Women. She's probably going to be nominated. I hope she's nominated. In my opinion, she's the best thing about that. Janelle, am I pronouncing her name? Monáe. She's had an amazing year with Moonlight and with Hidden Figures. Oh, Janelle Monáe.
Get in for Hidden Figures,
Yeah.
not for Moonlight.
Right. Yeah, which is, and Felicity Jones for A Monster Calls. I'm going through the Gold Derby list here. There's nobody. And Michelle Williams. I mean, it's a but it's role. But Matt and I were saying it's not enough. It's powerful, but it's not enough. And she's not playing the Queen. Yeah. So I mean, she can't pull off the yeah. And would somebody explain this supporting actor race to me? I'm going to say something very, very stupid. When I came out of 12 Years a Slave and I heard all this, Lupita Nyong'o, she's so great. I'm like, who was she in the movie? Did I miss something? Sometimes there's this, and I could be totally wrong, and she was deserving, but it's a win when I look back. I still don't understand, but what I do get as somebody who studies these things for a living is the momentum that happens when a breakout like that takes place, and it just keeps sweeping through. A star is born, and there's nothing more appealing in Hollywood than a star being born. And Lupita, to continue that example, is a sexy, glamorous, magnetic, talented woman who became a superstar thanks to good actress. And in retrospect, it was a very good win. But what the hell is this? Mahershala Ali thing with Moonlight? I don't get it. He's number one.
Mahershala.
Mahershala, he's great.
Thank you. All right.
He's great. He's so good in that.
And then he vanishes after a third of the movie, and there's no payoff for the character.
Still thinking about him throughout
You're
the
still
whole film.
right. You're still thinking about him because the character he plays forms who that kid becomes. Right. When you see him as an adult, you're like, oh, and you're thinking about Mahershala Ali's performance and character through every one of those scenes. Like, oh, he's become his pseudo father. I get it. Also, this is a guy who's had a hell of a year, right? I mean, we know him, we love him as Remy Danton on House of Cards.
That's the thing that kind of drives me a little crazy about this, because I think it is such a brief role. It's actually kind of the Michelle Williams counterpart to me. So brief. It is obviously his ghost is through the rest of that film. But it's so brief that it seems, you've got someone like, for my money, I would love, but this whole, wow, you've had this great year, kind of like, congratulations on 2016. That I wish we weren't doing.
Right, but it happens.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Totally.
No question. I think Matthew McConaughey's win was, it's a great role, Dallas Buyers Club, but he was in True Detective, and people were watching him every week.
Right.
That really.
God.
Right.
Oh, he is good.
And younger Academy, the younger, hipper side of the Academy will have watched Luke Cage. That
Yes.
Mahershala Ali is also in, and he's terrific in that. So, look, it's the thing that I mentioned when we started the show was we are as much predicting kind of the psychology of the Academy voters as to, we could talk about who really is best, but that's only part of the debate.
So the psychology, and I think that's completely valid. The psychology for me of that is someone like Ben Foster, who I've had up there from the beginning, because he's been so good for so long with zero notice. And then you've got, the journeyman, Jeff Bridges, from a movie that I think people desperately want to reward, which is Hell or High Water.
Ben Foster's in that too.
Yeah, sorry.
Don't you think they'll go for for Jeff over Ben? You don't, but
I don't. Yeah,
You don't mess with the master.
I know.
No,
But actually, I think Michael Shannon is the other person we should talk about.
Yes.
If they watch Nocturnal Animals, the one thing they will remember, because you cannot not remember him, is Michael Shannon in that film. I mean, he steals every moment he's on the screen, and he's so weird and delightful in everything he does.
Have we talked about things that have been forgotten? Because Nocturnal Animals just doesn't seem to be part of the conversation.
Well, right. Oh, well, but real quick, you were talking about Hell or High Water. Do you think that if Hell or High Water was released closer to this season, that we might have seen a Best Actor nod or potential for Chris Pine?
No.
I think he's really good in that.
I think it'd be ignored completely if it was released now. I don't think anyone would. I think it would get lost in the shuffle. There's too much money around everything else.
Good point.
They got the DVD out smartly, and that's what's helping its big surge now on the awards scene.
But it had very strong. I mean, when it came out in August, that was a strong reaction, and it was heartfelt and it was real. Versus sometimes you have these, boy, it's their year, or gosh, it sounds right. I've heard a lot about this. That was grassroots. And Dave McKenzie, who's a fantastic director and has been for a very long time, and keeps having these very intriguing films that nobody goes to see. You want him to have that kind of year.
The power of Manchester by the Sea and Moonlight as a viewing experience is that they're both superb at stimulating an empathetic experience. We were talking earlier when we were discussing Manchester. You really feel Casey Affleck's disorientation and loneliness and all of his ghosts. And in Moonlight, I think the movie has 1,000 flaws, but what transcends it all is you really feel that kid's pain. You really feel you really project yourself into there in a strong way. The kid from Manchester, Lucas Hedges, is in our second place here. He's a real threat, isn't he? Why?
I think because the character, for one thing, is written in such a way that it's idiosyncratic. It's not an expected role. You expect certain things out of this teenage, and he's none of those things. And so that's Kenny Lonergan. But then Lucas Hedges embodies that with a certain, I think, elan that is hard to. Very few people, I think, could have really pulled that off. He's this kind of he's having a great time. He doesn't want to leave, and yet he's still got this level of complete vulnerability that bounces off of Casey Affleck's, and that is a study in those two and how they deal with each other, of listening to each other and talking over each other. It's almost like a Patty Chayefsky, where they're they're just talking over each other at some points, and to be able to do that with Casey Affleck, who is a damn good actor, I think that's why he's in the conversation.
Nicole,
Refrigerator.
Dev Patel is holding an Oscar IOU. The man carried Best Picture Slumdog Millionaire. He's not been nominated, but now we've got him in the 4th position for Lion. I think he's getting a nomination. Can he win?
No,
I even think he's not even going to be nominated. Where do you stand on?
I'm on the fence of him getting a nomination.
You're going up and down and side by side. Make up your mind, Keith.
For Dev Patel?
Yeah.
I don't think
He's not
that movie
nominated?
didn't do.
This is Harvey's big Oscar.
This is Harvey's, but I think regardless of how much they push, I don't know.
The first hour of Lion could be a silent film, and it's a brilliant movie.
Right.
And then Dev Patel shows up, and you're like, oh.
No, that's
the movie about the kid. Yeah.
no, that's
And then by the time you warm up, and you have to get through the romance stuff, which they didn't.
Your wife is here. I saw her come. Watch yourself.
That's Dev Patel's Lion romance stuff. Romance itself, great thing, as La La Land. Then finally, obviously, there's a great payoff in Lion, and the film does work. But I don't think Dev Patel. It's too crowded.
He's all over. Let's
Crowded.
we only have a couple minutes left, and we have to wrap up. But the Oscar campaigns are won by being on the ground, right? Eddie Redmayne, if you win Best Picture, and you should win an acting award, Michael Keaton should have an acting award, right? Keaton has some problems in general. He didn't even get nominated for Spotlight. That could be a Keaton thing going on there. But Eddie won because he was kissing every baby and slapping every back and working this town with every party. And Dev is, every day I get another Dev Patel invitation for a luncheon or something.
It's not just how many babies you kiss. There actually has to be a performance there too. I think he's fine in the movie, but I don't think he stands out as anything really special. I think there's a lot better performances. I probably not put him on my list too, but I don't.
They're wrong. Tell them they're wrong.
It's a crowded field. The crowded field. I liked Lion a lot. There's one thing it does that really bothers me, but apart from that, I really like that film. And I just have to add, you're completely wrong about Moonlight. That movie is flawless, but we'll get back to that later. I think.
Okay, it's way overhyped.
Look, I think, to be cynical, I think that his performance is good enough that the campaign of him working the rooms and hitting the ground, and it's a Weinstein movie, I think it helps it, right? It's those are two factors that you have to say, okay, I think that look, we've seen worse performances get nominated.
It's a great performance.
What a great argument that is.
I think that's why Nicole Kidman gets nominated.
Maybe.
Stephen Henderson for Fences was, I believe, Tony nominated. He's a good chance of getting in here, right? For Fences?
I don't think so.
No. Okay.
I'd love to see him because he's also in Manchester. He's great in this bit role. He's always been great.
But I could definitely see both Foster and Jeff Bridges for that one.
Liam Neeson, he's in our 6th place at Gold Derby, but the role is not substantial enough when you actually see Silence, right? You've seen it, Nicole.
Sorry.
Liam Neeson's role isn't that big in Silence to get into the...
I don't think so. I think it's too small. I actually
That Issei Agata ended up stealing the...
Tim in it. He's
everybody.
great. He's an evil character in the film, but he has the brief moments of actual levity in it, and in his just characterization, which is kind of great and off-putting, and it kind of works.
Final thought, Matt. Each person down here. Let's sign off with a final thought. What's yours?
Like I said, it's a crowded year. This is the time of year that what we do gets really fun because the movies are so good. You get through September and October and the movies are rough, and then come November, it's like, oh, they're getting good again. So I would say, yeah. Do I think it's probably going to be La La Land going all the way? Yeah, I think that we're going to see some really worthy contenders, and what I said earlier, I think that we may see a Best Picture nomination for Patriots Day. That's my kind of late breaking, kind of
Could definitely happen.
late charge. I know.
Have you seen it? No. I'm excited about this year. I don't think we can have that. I'm so tired of there's no good Oscar movie, which is not the case this year. I think there's so many movies out there that are worthwhile, that have a lot to say, that have different points of view, that have strong female characters, that have. The fact that the Best Actress race is so jam-packed with really worthwhile contenders is very exciting to me, because we often don't get that. You see those scenarios where the actress is nominated and the picture is not, because the movie is just the actress role and there's no even picture attached to it, whereas so much has been kind of focused on the internal life of women. That to me is very exciting. So I think it's a great year.
Well, that applies for Still Atlas, but I think that we've had very strong women. That category's been very strong for last 6 or 7 years. We should bet you. That's what I love about this as well, which is, you're going in September and you're trying to put together a top 10 list. You're like, God, what am I gonna do? Jeez, and then
You got to dig deep.
at this time you're just going, oh gosh, what do I discard? This is so painful, and that's really wonderful, and a unique aspect, I think, of having these discussions and rewarding these things, which is that it does matter, and it matters to the people that make them more than you know, because they're pretty fragile and they're putting themselves out there in ways that we never do. I never do. And to have some recognition of it and have people be passionate about it, I think is all to the good.
The King's Speech made $400 million as a result of winning Best Picture. There's some money on the line here, too. Just The Imitation Game got close to $100 million domestic here with nominations and only one win, a surprise win in supporting. There's money on the line here, too. But what we're all talking about here is it's about passion and it's about love. And we have a lot of those movies this year that makes this an exceptional year for the Oscars. Go to Gold Derby. Give us your prediction. We have thousands of people trying to beat Keith Simanton, and I want somebody to take him down this year, and me and Matt and Nicole, and go out and see all these movies. And thanks for coming today.